Hey class, and welcome to the first week of class. We'll start off a little bit, pace ourselves during week one. Your only assignment this week is to read chapter 1 itself, which is about gaining a competitive advantage within human resources. So with the book, again, you'll kind of hear me make references to things in the book throughout the semester, but for week 1 this week, all you need to do is just read chapter 1. I will also post in the discussion forum, as I mentioned in the syllabus, a couple of introductory things for you that will be graded. The first part is you'll just kind of give me a little bit of information about your background. I love to know everybody's background in class. And then the second thing, I'll pose a question or two about the chapter itself. But as far as the highlights of chapter 1, we're going to talk about the roles and activities within HR itself. So, as you'll notice throughout the semester, we kind of do different functional discussions. So we'll spend 1 week talking about staffing, 1 week talking about training, 1 week talking about compensation. And again, you probably are familiar with a lot of these terms, but you may have never been exposed in depth to what they are. So I'll be sure to kind of walk you through what each one of those are throughout the semester. And the way I do most of my discussions is through the discussion forum. So that's how I'll make sure you get the information that you need for this class. We want to talk about basically, with HR being a strategic competitive advantage, what can we do as HR professionals and even managers to make sure that HR is giving us the information that we need to make the company successful. So HR can truly be a competitive advantage if we make it so, whether that's how much we pay people, how we affect the labor market. There's a million different ways that HR can be a strategic partner, and this chapter will kind of give you an overview of what that truly means. So make sure, especially when this chapter talks about HR being a competitive partner, make sure you pay close attention to those concepts because those will follow us throughout the semester. We want to talk about how HR affects the balanced scorecard. So that's a term you may or may not have heard before, but basically, how does HR affect our ability to be competitive, not just locally, but nationally, globally, et cetera, et cetera. In my role daily, what I see, working at a university is that, we literally have employees from, all age groups. I think we have employees that are as young as 18, as old as almost 90. So the age gap is incredible. We have employees from over 100 countries throughout the world and students from over 100 countries. So our ability for the policies that me and my department make as HR professionals truly affect, almost, 50,000 people if you add in staff, faculty, students, all of the above. So it's incredibly important that any decisions that we make are strategic by nature. And how can the products that we help develop, whether that's benefit plans, how we pay people, the different recruitment strategies that we use, the different ways that we treat employees, if there are disciplinary actions, all of these things go into what makes, HR competitive, and how do we, view ourselves compared to our competitors, and, in my role, obviously, other college, we're competing against other colleges and universities as well, but you have to remember, Stillwater itself is a small town. It's not very big. So there are other employers in town. So what can we do to be the best employer in town? And even in our region, we're about halfway in between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So, it's not that far for employees to go to these bigger cities to, get, maybe a better work life, better benefits, et cetera. So what can we do to keep our employees competitive? Technology is going to be a big thing that we talk about throughout the semester, about the different ways that we can leverage technology to make sure that we're doing things better. It wasn't that long ago that, when you would fill out a job application, you'd have to actually fill out a 10-page actual paper. And now you can get online, upload your resume, upload your cover letter, and you're done in a couple seconds. So, so from a recruitment, benefits, it used to be you have to fill out these long, complicated forms to enroll in your benefits. Now you can do it online. Most companies do it that way. So it's amazing the different technologies that we use. I mean, just look at this discussion right now, me using this webcam to be able to kind of talk to you about some different aspects. That would have been unheard of even 10 years ago. So again, it's amazing what technology can do, and we want to make sure that we're leveraging that. We want to talk about the different HR systems that we're going to be using. So, when we start talking about compensation, for pure example, there's different philosophies and different systems that companies can utilize. And depending on what your focus is, will depend on what structure you want to maintain. So again, my goal throughout the semester is to not necessarily tell you what I think is the best approach. My goal is to give you the several different options, and then you make a decision on what you feel like is the best. Because ultimately, I can expose you to the concepts. I can make sure you understand the pros pros and cons, but ultimately as future leaders and future managers, you're the ones who have to make these decisions that you feel like are best for you and your organization. Because I can assure you, if you work for Coke, which has hundreds of thousands of employees, you're going to have a very, very different approach than if you work for a small mom and pop IT company that maybe has 10 employees. So you have to take each one of these within the context that they're given. And finally, we want to talk about what are our best practices as HR professionals. Obviously, it's not all that different from, just wanting to be a good manager. You want to be kind, you want to be caring, you want to be firm, but you want to be fair. You want to make sure that you put your employees in a position to be successful and to get out of them as much as you can. And throughout the semester, we're going to talk about what concepts those are that will help you become more successful leaders and managers. So again, this chapter is all about kind of how HR is utilized as a overall strategic competitive advantage and how we relate to marketing and finance and all these other areas of the working world and how we can make them better, essentially. So again, after you read chapter 1, just kind of reflect a little bit on this. Again, I'll post in the discussion board some questions for you to answer. And if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. So welcome to week 1, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, class.